inevitable at this point. We are watching the Trump bubble crack in real time. And I don't believe the question any longer is whether it burst. I think the question is, when does it burst and what impact does it have when it does? Because here's the thing. Every political movement built on a cult of personality eventually collapses. Sometimes it collapses with the death of the cult leader, but it always collapses. We look at history, we see it, and we're seeing the pressure build. So I want to take a little bit of a look at what's actually happening. The approval rating is sliding. We see that. Not catastrophically over the last few months, not all at once, but it is steadily sliding. It's like air leaking from a tire. And even in red states, even among Republicans, you're seeing slippage. The true believers will tell you, oh, but the polls are fake. But what they can't explain, and Republican politicians are nervous, is that if they really thought that everything was fine, they wouldn't be hedging the way they are. The MAGA base is very loud online, very passionate. But if you look at their fundraising numbers, they're down. If you look at the ride or die people from 2016 who doubled down in 2020 and maybe were with them in 2024, some of them are pretty tired. Some of them are broke from donating to Trump time and again. Some of them are realizing that the things Trump promised aren't materializing. They're not going to materialize. And then you've got the Republican infighting, Thomas Massie and Marjorie Taylor Greene, occasionally Rand Paul. When the demagogue starts to weaken, the knives often come out. It's another trend that we see. And so you've got Republicans who were too scared to criticize Trump in the past, developing a spine. Not most of them, but some of them. You see some governors distancing themselves. You see senators who voted to acquit him twice suddenly having diplomatic things to say about the future of the party and, looking inward. And so what it seems like is happening is that a bunch of Republicans kind of smell blood in the water. They're doing the math. They see a nearly 80-year-old guy, legal challenges to so much of what he's doing, an economy that's not delivering, losing support among the base, blanket tariffs. And they might be thinking, his time is coming and maybe my time is coming. And so what the bursting will probably look like is not one moment. It's gradual. 1,000 small defections. The local Republican who stops mentioning Trump in campaign ads. We've seen that. The Fox News host who covers him a little bit less, testing the waters. We've seen that. The mega donor that says, I'm going to shift a little bit of money somewhere else, which we've also seen. And then one day, the people who were all in start looking around and realizing we are in shrinking company here. The thing they based their entire political identity on may deflate. Now, there's a psychological need not to feel like you wasted years on a loser. And they may be looking for an exit ramp. Now, some won't actually leave. Every single cult has the diehards who go down with the ship. But the casual supporters, the kind of transactional Republicans who back Trump because he won, the people who like that he made liberals mad, they're looking for the door. And what can accelerate the collapse is losing. And Trump is setting himself up to lose. The economy he promised is not materializing. The policies aren't working. The approval numbers are dropping. And when the dear leader stops getting political wins, the spell can break. When the pitch was, I'm a winner and I'll make you win, and you don't win, what is left? Now, there's also the generational component, which I think is worth mentioning. Young Republicans who aren't MAGA believers, they're thinking about the next 30 years. And the next 30 years does not include Donald Trump. It might include Donald Trump Jr., God forbid, but they're not going to hitch their wagon to, the sinking ship of a 79-year-old. The prediction for me is as follows. When the bubble bursts, it will ultimately burst quickly. We will go from the inevitability of Trump's legacy to who would Trump? I don't know. We're kind of between, JD Vance and whoever, but there's going to be very little discussion of Donald Trump because a lot of these strongmen leaders, a lot of these people at the top of a cult of personality, they seem invincible until all of a sudden they're not. And Trump's comeback has been much weaker than the original, lower energy, a much more fragile movement. And the historical revisionism I expect when Trump is finally done is going to make your head spin. Fox is going to pivot so quickly, they'll find the next strong man, the next con man. But the version of Trump we see right now is definitely on borrowed time. So watch for the signs, watch for the donors hedging their bets. The pressure is building, the base is exhausted. I believe it is eventually going to collapse spectacularly. And that is not in the scenario where Trump dies in office, which there are a lot of people saying, obese, nearly 80-year-old, the actuarial tables aren't good. He's clearly lying about his health. I'm not even dealing with that scenario. I believe that the implosion is ultimately going to be absolutely nuts. Ambitious politicians will start circling, and there is going to be a whole Trump who kind of thing.